Okay, that was kinda underwhelming, I have to admit. That's not to say that it wasn't enjoyable to watch. There were some nice parts to it, but ultimately, I think this is the worst movie of the sequel trilogy. Yeah, this one, not Last Jedi. Reason being, well, my problem with it really arises from the fact that the twist that Palpatine is actually the bad guy for this whole trilogy is it's really underwhelming because in the opening crawl, the like a transmission has come with in the voice of dead Emperor Palpatine. Oh yeah, so you just spearhead Palpatine into this with no build up at all? Could you not have, played the transmission at the beginning of the movie in Palpatine's voice and create at least a little bit of confusion? But even then, we'd still have problems because Palpatine claims that he created Scourge. I still cannot get this guy's name right. So at least that explains why, when that guy died, he didn't like explode into dark side energy because Palpatine was just channeling some of his enormous power through him, or at least just that's presumably what happened. But like it just there was no build up. Like really, the only reason I think that I even guessed that something was wrong after how easy that guy died in the last movie was because I heard Palpatine's name get thrown around with this movie a little bit. Just, uh, like, they clearly wanted this to be a big reveal for the trilogy, but the problem is they did it as if these movies weren't connected, because this is what I'm talking about, okay? If you've watched the Scream trilogy done by Wes Craven, you would know that each movie was made independent of each other, but gradually added a little bit more to the backstory that was originally explained in the first movie, expanded upon in the second one, and then throws you a big curveball in the third one. But you have preparation for this because of the rules scene done by Jamie Kennedy in all three of the movies. The movies. But that trilogy is an example where each movie was made independent of each other, but helps form a bigger story. This trilogy, we knew there were going to be three movies from the get-go. They were planning this build-up from the get-go. And you don't provide anything really in it. You're just like, oh yeah, it was Palpatine. Huh. Yeah, nice. That's real nice. Talk about not giving like any real suspense, and you don't even provide any explanation as to how he survived. Like what? What? When he explodes in the Death Star and all of his dark side energy is swirling around Vader, does it like spread across the galaxy to that planet and then it inhabits him? If he was really the one that was responsible for controlling Ben, then Kylo Ren, whatever you want to call him, then why didn't he say that? He didn't say that. He just said that he created Scorn. Just, huh? And the fact that Kylo Ren so insanely quickly is going to obey him, even though he does offer Rey, the opportunity to overthrow the Emperor and take the throne, but just, huh? That was, yeah. Okay, so that really did not work. And then the addition that Rey is actually Palpatine's granddaughter. That has a ton of problems too, because due to the fact that Palpatine's buildup didn't get that much bit, you're just like, aha, this is how she has Force powers because she's related to Palpatine. Okay, but why is she his granddaughter? Because arguably, based on my knowledge of Star Wars Legends, I never actually listened to the Darth Pelagius audiobook, but it's on the bucket list. From what I can tell, it seems like actually Sidious was mainly responsible for taking his master's idea and then using the midichlorians bit to create Anakin. So, if that's the case, why didn't you just create Rey yourself? Like, why did you have to go through multiple generations of this? And then also, so, if he captured Rey's parents and tries to figure out where they left her, but they don't tell him, why didn't you bring Rey's parents to you and interrogate them yourself? Why did you just say, just kill them? What? Ugh. Yeah. So, like, this is part of a huge grand plan to fix things? Honestly, this is... I'd argue that this is almost even worse than what I learned was the grand plan of the last Resident Evil movie. Yeah. Because it's worse here because the villain, was in hiding, whereas at least in those movies you knew who the bad guys were. Sure, their logic and the continuity errors that Paul W.S. Anderson did sucked, but... at least it felt more natural rather than just Palpatine going, hey, I'm in charge of everything. And, like, you create that many Star Destroyers with the old design, but with extra cannons, so that makes the design look even more ridiculous, because I actually grew to like how the First Order didn't bother with the Star Destroyer bridge sticking right up. It was like a tiered system, so again, you know where the bridge is, but you can include better weaponry systems. Yeah, so you're gonna go just to every free planet and just blow them all up? Every planet that isn't under your territory already? I mean, like, it's quicker, and it crushes all resistance, but then, okay, you're left with what? 25% of the galaxy? To rule over some victory? Yeah. It just... I don't get it. Really. So yeah, Palpatine's plan here just makes no sense, and you want Rey to strike you down and become your successor, but she doesn't think like you do. What? You just are trusting that you can take the little bit of dark that's in her and then just have it corrupt her. Yeah. And like, what are we gonna do with Kylo Ren? You knew that he was turning against you. Come on, he knew. And then having Bill Weasley's character suddenly betray everybody and just try to, just so he can see Kylo Ren lose, but then he gets killed by this other general guy who they don't explain who he is, like they don't explain who that guy is that Poe gets the information from at the beginning of Force Awakens. Like, yeah, old ally, unless that was General Dodoma, who should be dead. It doesn't look at all like that guy, because that General Dodoma was shorter and had a beard, yeah. So, just like, what the heck? I mean, like, this new guy did kind of look like Tarkin, but Tarkin's dead, obviously, so... Right, that's just... The bad guy's motives in here just suck. Right. And then there's Leia's purpose in here. Well, she does go out for a purpose, and it's way touching how all three of the original trio, basically sacrificed themselves in order to help Ben, overpower Kylo Ren and decide to fix things, but At the same time, it has been done before, and then I think the philosophical saying of, like, has to devote the last of her strength to save her son. So, in essence, when Rey impaled Ben, she was impaling Leia? Is that what I got from that? Possibly. I'm probably gonna have to listen to the novelization of this movie to, get it further, which means, like with the prequels, I'm going to probably find that the novels explain things better than the movie. That sucks. Yeah. Right. Although I will admit, it was a nice touch to actually see Force heal after, having so many games that had the power of Force heal, right? Okay, anything else to really complain about? Oh yeah, and some of the Force powers that were going on in here. Some of them can be seen as a bit of a stretch, others not so much, because like the bits where Kylo Ren tricks Rey into thinking that she killed Chewie by channeling his Force lightning through her. Well, that's kind of creative, but that totally was not his original plan, because, he's trying to fight her for control of that ship, but, like, why would he, I guess, try to force the ship to, like, crash onto her? Like, couldn't he crush the ship, blow it out of the sky with his lightning from the get-go, or just hurl it away? So I'm not complaining about how he channels the Force lightning through her. I'm okay with that, because they've got a very unique bond. Duh. It's just his behavior there, that was kind of odd. And then Luke's Force Ghost levitating his X-Wing out of the water. Now that's a nice homage to the original trilogy, but like a Force Ghost can actually take possession of objects, I find that to be a big stretch. Now, honestly, what happened in The Last Jedi with Yoda's ghost causing the tree to light on fire, honestly, I can forgive that, because how do you know that Luke didn't accidentally do that himself, or it was just a freak accident of nature? I agree that those both are kind of far-fetched, but honestly, I can forgive what Yoda did there. And even then, how do you know it's not a dream that Luke was having, even though if it was a dream, you would have seen Luke wake up? Just, yeah. So what Yoda did was fine, but Luke doing that was dumb. And then, Rey teleporting one of her lightsabers to Ben when they're both fighting off Palpatine's guards. What? So you're telling me that the Force can make something disappear and then reappear elsewhere like regular sorcery? What? Yeah. So that was bad. And then, Ben's decision to heal Rey. Okay, so I knew that he was going to do it, and I guessed that, the effort to do it would probably kill him, because one, he was pretty weak as it is, and it stood to reason that if he had enough energy to pull himself up from wherever the heck Palpatine cast him to, that he had expended a decent amount of energy on the way back up, but they really could have made it a little more impactful, the scene, if he's looking at the seriousness of the wound and then back at her and concludes in his mind, but without saying it out loud, that the only way he can save her is for him to die. So one of them is going to have to die regardless. I think that would have been better than doing the bit of, oh yeah, he's healing her, then they kiss and have that tender moment, and then he just collapses. Because for 1 second there, I was like, wait, you're going to save him? But this whole story arc with this guy is built so that he dies, and oh yeah, he has died. Huh? You could have definitely made that scene more impactful, Abrams. Right. Um, yeah. Okay, so other things to mention in this movie. Rey's training. The idea that they had is good, but they ultimately rushed that in the movie, especially since Rey is given Luke's, well, Anakin's old lightsaber because that's the only lightsaber she's got. But like, what happened to Luke's green lightsaber? Because he's got a green lightsaber when he's about to kill Ben, and I'm pretty sure that they have lightsabers that have a very similar handle to that. Later, like, what's up with that? And then also, where did Rey get that yellow lightsaber? Like, what is that supposed to be? I cannot recall a Jedi ever having a yellow lightsaber. No. Corrin's lightsaber was purple in one setting and white in another setting, yeah. I don't know. Right. So, yeah, that's something that needs to be explained. What they did with Finn and Poe in this movie, it's nice to see them in a more leadership position, but ultimately, not that much came to be. Because, like, oh, you have that bit where Finn and I think her name's Jasmine, maybe, the black chick? It's nice that he learns that he wasn't the only person for the First Order to jump ship, but it turns out everyone who jumps ship is force sensitive? Just like that? Huh? Yeah, like, they're trying to do something with it, but ultimately they didn't really amount to much. And then Finn trying to tell Rey, "Hey, I never told you what?" Especially since at the end of the movie nothing happens, and I could have sworn, well, two things actually. One, I could have sworn that I read that the actor who played him says that he's done with Star Wars, and then also number two. Wasn't there a whole bunch of hype to make either Finn or Poe gay? Huh? I could have sworn at least one of them was supposed to be gay. Maybe that's just wishful thinking among commenters. I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of odd. Now, I'm not complaining about that backstory that they throw in there with Poe and that chick who always has her face hidden with the visor, because in hindsight, it actually doesn't surprise me with Poe being the reckless guy, And in the Legends books, Han did have former love interests before he meets up with Luke and Obi-Wan. How do I blank on that? That's a fail, right. So I'm actually okay with the fact that we don't get too much from that, yeah. And part of me wonders why I'm complaining about this, because as I alluded to in my last Jedi review, these three are ordinary people. They are a different kind of hero. But, yeah. I liked what they were, at least in the direction they were going with these first two, but this, yeah. It's odd that the movie that Abrams returns to help create is the one that I actually complained about. Although, it seems like that he stepped in way later in the process than it seems like most directors do, so it could be that a good amount of the story was written, they just needed a change of directors, and they're like, hey, let's just bring in the guy who's already done this. Yeah, I guess that would make sense. Not to say that this movie didn't feel totally different, because this carried a lot of the same positive energy that The Force Awakens did. You could tell that this was the same guy in charge. It's just the story sucks, and even if you're an executive producer, I don't think you have the greatest control over the story, although there are definitely times where executive producers have quite a lot of influence, because I'm pretty sure Mike Myers was an executive producer for Austin Powers, Tom Cruise is an executive producer for Mission Impossible, although I think Abrams is for at least a couple of those, especially the third one, but he directed the third one. Yeah. Okay, I'm definitely glad that they didn't kill off Chewie, especially since I sensed, that they were going to kill off Leia, so I'm like, you're gonna kill off everybody that was from the original trilogy. Don't do that. Bringing back Lando, well, I'm real glad that they did that, because, they brought back all the other main good guys, and Lando was the only other recurring good guy that they had left that you'd actually recognize, because the other recurring good guy was Wedge, who I'm really glad that they brought back for that short cameo, and luckily for me, I was able to recognize him instantly. He comes up, nice flying, Lando, and I'm like, ah! Yeah, I literally did that. Because I remember when I first reviewed Force Awakens, I'm like, they bring back Amber Akbar? Why didn't they get back Wedge? Well, they actually did offer to bring him back. He declined, but I guess he changed his mind for this movie. Yeah, thanks, Dennis. I'm real glad that you did that. What else to mention about this? Well, I think you can guess how I ultimately feel about this. Because, visually, it was nice. Getting the cameos and homages from everyone, including Han, even though they don't credit him for that role. What? It was nice to to have, that, and there were some tense moments, like the bit with the rescuing Chewie. That was intense. Landing on that planet and then using 3PO. Oh yeah, 3PO! Yeah, how is it that his suit is suddenly a lot more dynamic? Because, in the original trilogy, you never saw him, go upstairs, manipulate his fingers, and it seems like they've definitely changed his personality. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure that's because of, it's been a long time since he's had a mind wipe, but then again, it had been 20 years after he was mind wiped at the end of episode 3, so, yeah. Yeah, he felt odd, like they did a little too much with him, and suddenly he's a lot more willing to participate in these battle situations? Huh. That was definitely out of character, if you ask me. Although, at least now Anthony Daniels can, retire, saying that, he was in every, movie, albeit he just lent his voice for the first movie, he wasn't even on set to observe what they were doing with the parts of 3PO there, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, there's aspects of the movie that are nice, but ultimately, the story I feel like it was kind of flat, and this movie definitely relied a lot more on Deus Ex Machina to fix everything, because in The Last Jedi, the loopholes and explanations that they used to save everyone, actually, I'm okay with. The biggest complaint that I have is Leia manipulating the Force to get her back on the craft, and even then, we have seen similar things like that in Legends, so if that's my biggest stretch, I'm okay with it, but this is definitely Deus Ex Machina, Lando showing up with, that many people? Like, that many ships that close together? That just strikes me as bad. And, like, all of these events taking place within a a day and change at most? Like, that really is a stretch. Like, I thought that they were making it a little bit of a stretch to make all the events of Last Jedi when they take place in, like, I don't know, 3 days, something like that. But I feel like they actually ended up managing to make it work. But this? No, that was way, way too quick. And, the light speed skipping bit, wouldn't that really hurt the hyperspace drives on the Falcon? Now, granted, it's the Falcon, which has been, well, modified to wit's end over the course of multiple decades, but at the same time, it was just sitting around, not operating for years. So you're telling me that Rey, Poe, and Chewie were able to get it operational that quickly? And what happened to those pigeon birds from the last movie? I mean, like, that's not that important, but I'd kind of like to know if you were going to use them for a gag with Chewie that much. Yeah. And, what the heck were all those other beings in a Palpatine's throne room? That just didn't make any sense. Although I am glad that when they killed him, he did explode in dark side energy. Thank you. Yeah. That's not to discredit Ian, you know, because the ironic thing is, other than Anthony Daniels, he's the only other person to be in every trilogy. Because, yes, for those of you who don't know, that was him in Return of the Jedi. Although he didn't voice the Emperor in the original Empire Strikes Back hologram scene, but for everything that DVD release onward, he does. Yeah. Yeah. So, this is just going on and on, so I really need to stop this here. So, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that the movie that everyone was complaining about, actually, I didn't really have any problems with, though as I said, yes, it is possible that I will have problems with it once I watch people's videos. But this one, as I said, it fell rather, flat. Gonna give it 3 out of 5 for now, but I think part of the reason I'm doing that is because, you know, it was my first time, watching it. Wanted to see how the story concluded, and it really was kind of crappy how it concluded, yeah. Alright, well, if, you stuck around, I hope I didn't put too big of a damper on your day, and, if you think that I'm kind of crazy, well, I actually barely knew anything about this or Last Jedi going into it. Like, people had told me that Luke had died, but I had started to think that they were joking, and based on how the Last Jedi played out at the end, I thought for the longest time, indeed, yeah, they were joking, but then I realized, oh, yeah. So, there's that, and then, I did hear that Lando would come back from this, and then as I said, I had heard Palpatine, his name mentioned, but with no context, and then the potential gay bit. But yeah, like, I had no clue what to expect from, like, any of this. So, I'm not biased in any way at all. People, no expectations, giving you my honest thoughts. Yeah. Now, am I going to pick this up? Yeah, probably, but I'm not in any rush to do that, both because of the pandemic, want to focus on other things, and also I want to make sure that the 9-film box set that seems to be rumored to be coming out or might be out in some limited capacity, I want to make sure that that really is the definitive 9-film thing, so I can figure out what's going on with the extras with Star Wars, because that's something that's annoying with Star Wars movies. You have to buy pretty much every release of everything to get everything. Yeah. See ya.